Voters making their voices heard at the polls in New Jersey, South Dakota, New Mexico, Montana, and Washington, D.C. Some of the last primaries of this election cycle, by the way, and both Biden and Trump, well, they won easily, but there were some warning signs. 538's polling average still gives Donald Trump a slight lead over the president heading into November. Our political director, Rick Klein, has a few takeaways from the results for us. So Trump and Biden won last night, Rick, but there was a little trouble. In New Mexico, there were 15% of Republicans that voted for someone other than President Trump, instead opting for Nikki Haley and Chris Christie. Biden got about 84% of the vote, losing some to Marianne Williamson and those uncommitted voters. How worried should these campaigns be?
Yeah, Kira, if it's June and you're showing up at a primary as a Democrat or a Republican and voting against the person that is almost certain to be the nominee in just a couple of weeks, you're doing it to send a message. And the message has been a consistent one in both parties. There's a segment of voters that are not happy with Joe Biden as the Democratic nominee, and a slightly larger segment of Republican voters not happy with the idea that Donald Trump is the nominee. It is notable that this is the first voting to happen since the guilty verdict last week in New York, although a lot of the voting in New Mexico and elsewhere is early and was probably cast before that the verdict. And we should note Nikki Haley was the last holdout in finally endorsing Trump just a couple weeks ago. So we've seen that, though, a consistent number of that chunk of voters that both of them are going to have to work to get back now that we're fully in general election mode.
All right, so let's move on to New Jersey. Democrat Andy Kim won the Senate primary and will face Republican Curtis Bashaw and incumbent Bob Menendez, who will now run as an independent amid his criminal trial on bribery charges. New Jersey is a pretty blue state, but could Menendez and his gold bars, and his cash stuffed in his pockets play a spoiler here?
Yeah, Democrats have to watch this race carefully. The last thing they want or need is to split the vote and potentially send a solid Democratic, a solid blue state into the red column. And the only way that a Republican wins there is something weird happens like that. Look, if Menendez is acquitted and he goes forward with that campaign, maybe he still has a base of support. His son, also named Rob Menendez, won in his primary. He's a member of Congress from the northern part of the state. He gets to continue to serve if he wins that seat. So the name itself doesn't seem to be a significant political drag at this moment. Although I think most observers expect that Andy Kim is going to consolidate the support, and Menendez may or may not continue his bid, depending on the verdict in his own trial.
All right. And Rick Klein, you mentioned Rob Menendez, his son. Did you notice in the campaign signs how he made his first name bigger than his last name? Because there might have been a little concern there that folks.
Yeah,
exactly. Please don't confuse us. Two different people. Rick Klein, thank you.